Okay, principles of passion, take one.
It's Principles of Passion.
Molly and I share a passion.
Hey, I am very passionate.
Oh, how nice.
It is his passion.
Michael and I share a passion.
Bit of a passion for me.
It's my passion.
I've learned a lot, and I followed my passion.
Here's your host, Chris Thomas, with Denora Robles and Dominic Semino on intellectualradio.com. Principles of Passion.
Think about it. First of all, thank y'all for joining us. We apologize we're a little bit late. What we want to do here is obviously inspire people, but also be inspired. I wanted to start this show. I've been in staffing for about 10 years now, and my passion, though, is mentoring and coaching, and I have the opportunity with my new company, Purpose Workforce Solutions, to develop a mentoring and coaching-based staffing firm. But for fun, I get to do this and hang out with awesome people like y'all. So, to my co-hosts, Dominic Semino.
How are you?
And Denora Robles. Thank you.
Gente.
And we are honored to have, Anthony Clark. He is a high school teacher at Oak Park River Forest. He's also a community activist and a community organizer, and has done some amazing things for the community of Oak Park as well as Chicago and the outer cities there. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, Anthony.
No, first and foremost, thank all of you for having me. It's truly an honor. It's truly a pleasure. Chris, you've been a homie for a long time. We've known each other since the playground. So it's good to see how we both grown and matured throughout the years. You're a troublemaker growing up, so it's important.
Truth is coming out.
Still are, to say. So it's amazing to see you in the position that you're in, and thank you for all that you do. But again, pleasure to be here. And as you stated, as you alluded to in my introduction, I'm simply a person. I'm a special education high school teacher, community organizer, community activist. I've started a nonprofit, Suburban Unity Alliance, primarily based out of Oak Park, Illinois. We do our work in Oak Park, the Maywood community, in West Chicago for the most part. And our focus is equity work, trying to build bridges, tap into empathy, create intersectional movements to essentially close those opportunity gaps that exist throughout the world, and throughout our country on a macro and micro level. And that's our work. I'm a co-owner of a small business. We employ at-risk youth. And, in the past, I was nominated to run for Congress, and I ran for Congress in 2018.
Kudos.
In the Illinois 7th Congressional District. So, again, I don't believe I'm anything special. I'm just someone who's fed up, and I cannot accept, how things currently are. I cannot accept status quo. So while I have time on this earth, until I'm 6 feet under, I'm going to do whatever I can, that's within my power to try to push for real systemic change.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
No worries at all. I appreciate it.
So just to rewind a little bit, our goal is to inspire people through stories of adversity. Mm-hmm. And Anthony's someone that I've seen go through some adversity in his career thus far. He's going to go through more because that's what change is about, is overcoming that adversity when just people are on different sides of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do that. What we really want to focus on today, though, is networking. And really what that entails when you're new to an environment, right? When you're a little bit unsure about yourself and where you sit in that environment, and for younger people, where you sit with yourself, right? So it's hard combining all those things together. But I wanted to bring Anthony on because he's been one to network very well and to have built some great relationships with that. And so what I'll do is, Dom, last week, do you remember? Can you do a little bit of a recap for us?
Yeah. So to recap on last week, Lucky Sevens, we talked about staying organized. So what better way to follow up? You're organized now. Now you're looking for something to do, but you might not have the right connection. So what better way to follow up with networking?
Right. Absolutely. Denora, anything that rings a bell from last week, this week, anything that's, I guess, even that's just happened in your life this week? Anything?
It's just coincidental that we're talking about networking because the power of networking is, it can really take you places. So I'm really happy that we're talking about this now because I have, some good experiences to share later on.
Good. Awesome. So just to recap what at least my 10 principles are, and again, as we grow this show out, we want to feed off of other people's principles. Dom sent me a list today of someone's we're
Stay
going to use in
tuned.
some future episodes, so I appreciate
Look at
that.
that.
But in terms of our original 10, do the right thing. Attitude is everything. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. Believe in yourself. Set goals. Stay organized. 85% of all jobs are filled by networking, which is where we are today. Diligence is the father of persistence. We're going to have an awesome guest on next week for that. If you don't have an education, you better have a craft or a lot of money. And even if you have all three, nothing in life is guaranteed. And be elite. So we do have some excellent speakers lined up for the next, I think all the way through mid-May. Some pretty great guests coming on the show. I think our Be Elite is going to be a call-in by Morgan Field. Excited to have that one. One of the homies, man, for sure. So that'll be exciting. But just to pull it all in, networking. I did some definitions. I looked them up just to try and gauge what the world says about it. I picked out a couple that I think kind of work for me. The first one, networking. The action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. And then number 2, the linking of computers to allow them to operate interactively.
Okay, got that.
So Dom, being the kind of
It follows me everywhere.
security, for those of y'all that don't know, Dom is a hardworking Accenture IT security consultant. What would you say to those two?
I'd say it's kind of like a metaphor. Like, you know me, I'm really into my writing, so I compare everything to metaphors and stuff. So when I hear that definition about the computers, and then I hear the definition about human interaction, I just tie it all together as one big metaphor because, in a sense, it kind of all is.
Yeah.
So,
And Anthony, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, just building upon, what you stated, I think what stood out for me is, I think the first definition included for social and professional purposes and reasons, and the importance of collaboration. So I just think about anyone has a goal in life. All of us mostly have goals in life. And, for me, it just lets me know, and I start thinking about you cannot necessarily achieve your goal on your own. Like, yes, you can singularly have passion, you can singularly have drive, but I don't know anyone personally in my life that has gotten to the position they're in without some level of networking, whether socially or professionally. So that's what I think about when you read those definitions.
Absolutely. And to your point of goal, if you're networking all over without a focal point, it kind of doesn't really, you're not going to get anywhere. It's
Have
like
to have a purpose.
running a race and running your first mile but not knowing where your finish line is, right? So you gotta set those goals. You have to stay organized, but then after that you start to network, because you don't want to be networking in realms that aren't aligned with your passion and with where you're trying to go, because then you're just all over the place. Yeah. So no, I appreciate that. So there was an article, it's a little bit of an older one, but it was on Business Insider, and it was written by a lady of the name of Bianca Mail is her name. And there was a few things that she mentioned that I really liked. And so I'll ask you these in question form just to kind of get a sense of where you guys are coming from with these. Do you participate in networking groups? Let's start with Dom.
yes,
Yes.
I do, but I'm one of those people who needs to, like, get a head start. Like, I need someone to come up to me first.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to
Okay.
start
So-
a conversation.
So let me just dovetail off that. Networking is hard, first and foremost, right? It's hard if you are an internal person. You just not want to put yourself out there like that. You like people to come and receive you. That's something you can get better at, though.
Yes, and I definitely need to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some things that can help you are just going and doing it. And a lot of times, again, back to the point of staying organized, setting a goal. When you go to a networking event, do you have a list of 5 questions simple questions that are your end goal to ask someone? Do you know what I mean?
I do, and I don't. I should
I
probably,
do, I don't.
I should probably get onto it.
And it's a simple, like, it could even be something that relates to a news article you saw about security, right? Because you want to be going to security events.
Yes, of course.
Because that's your wheelhouse for you, at least. So have that list of 5 questions.
It's just interesting because in IT, and maybe this is a stigma,
Sure.
but they're all very introverted. I've noticed anybody that's really in the IT world, they're introverted. So how do you overcome that challenge? I mean, at the end of the day, you can't force someone if that's their personality. So how would they network? Would it be LinkedIn?
So like that, like I could kind of answer that. So like I'm not good at networking, but I'm making progress with it. So
What are you doing?
so what I do is I try and find commonalities and go from there.
Do you approach them or they approach you?
No, so if I'm walking past trying to find someone to network with and I like catch wind of something and it's like an opening group, like they're very welcoming to like more questions or more people adding in, I'll go in and be like, oh, hey, so you like this? And then that's my like way in to like networking. And then from there, I would just get to know the rest of the group.
Now, I have a question to throw out there. What do you all think in regard to, because of course with my work, you know, I'm always thinking about the intersectional aspect of everything. So in terms of networking as a minority, you know, for black and brown individuals, oftentimes in, you know, professional settings, we're often the token, you know, the only one in a sense. So it's a lot of individualism. It's that crab in the barrel mentality often. So, you know, as minorities, as black and brown individuals, do you find networking at times could possibly be threatening to the position you may have obtained in a predominantly white setting, if that makes sense?
Yes. I would say yes, because sometimes my accent comes out a little bit and that can be a little challenging. And I think people judge me before they meet me. I've actually had someone say that to me once. I just feel like there's going to be an attitude or something coming about if I just say hello. And that was just something that's a figment in their imagination. That was not. Yeah. So it is a little challenging. I think in my behalf it has been. But I like challenges. So definitely I've overcome that.
You know what's been a challenge for me is in staffing, being that it's sales, a lot of the people that I've reached out to at my previous company were at a higher level and people of non-color. And so when reaching out to those folks and presenting my company, my position, my solution that I have, I felt it's oftentimes difficult to relate, or they didn't relate to me. But once I got like a Hispanic or a black person or even an Asian person on the phone, it's like we kind of clicked right away. And that wasn't across the board, but in the amount of calls I had to make over the course of years, it was predominantly me reaching out to white people, right? When I say white people, people of non-color. And there was that lack of, for lack of better words, just lack of
Like relatability.
relatability, you know, and that's a big reason I wanted to, you know, jump into this podcast and also jump into the company I'm with now in terms of dealing with disenfranchised students. There is that lack of relatability from top to bottom, and there aren't a lot of people of color in positions of power, right, or positions of authority, and that's what the goal is to try and bring it full circle and have an organization understand how to bring people of diversity from the bottom, but how do you make them relate with people from the top when there's an unrelatable kind of balance there that you have to find, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
You know, so it's been tough for me. I think where I've learned to get better at it is to become more educated about what I'm speaking about and just be able to speak to it and speak directly to it and then present myself in the best way. Don't come with my hair all, you know, and I had the box, I had the dress, I had it all, right? But I'm clean, and even the beard could be taken as not cut, not clean cut. So
Are you saying you had to change who you were physically?
I had to change how I present myself and how I wanted to be perceived, not who I was, and how I perceive myself.
So, did you have to mold into
I
certain
had to
type?
conform to a certain extent, but I didn't, and that was the tough part for me is how do you conform without losing yourself?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Again, I can't hide. I'm brown.
Be you.
I can't hide. I'm brown. At first, when I was younger, I always tried. I did the whole blonde hair thing. I tried to fit in to the social whatever call norm.
Social norms.
Yeah, that's what you want to call it. then I just accept it. And this is what it is. I like to wear my hoops. I like to wear my pink lipstick. And that's just who I am. I'm not going to change that. I don't need to conform because my performance is going to speak for itself.
So not conform. So I guess maybe wrong.
So I think I might be able.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for
So
it.
the way I see it is, like, it has to be a collective thing, but it's easier said than done. You just have to shed the ego. That's it. We're all human,
I can see that.
and and like you don't have to necessarily, like you said, conform. It's not conforming. It's more or less just understanding how to adapt and adjust.
Right.
You don't lose yourself. You don't need to lose yourself. And like, if you think you're going to lose yourself, that's part of the ego. And that's why, in my opinion, I say you have to let it shed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of like feeding into, for black and brown individuals, for minority individuals, it's almost inherent from birth that most of us have to master the ability of code switching. I think that's what we're all discussing in the sense of it's automatic for me. Like, I even catch myself now, as a 36-year-old man, when I'm talking to my homies, like, it's what's up, what's good, and then when I'm in a professional setting, the vernacular, the tone changes in a sense because I want to be less threatening in a sense. But I think for me personally, what it plays into is, again, that struggle of sense of self. Because oftentimes I don't want to have to change. I don't want to have to code switch. Or if I'm networking, and as we know, oftentimes even in a professional setting, networking ends up at like a bar, or networking ends up at like a party or someone's house. And then, can I bring myself? Can I bring who Anthony is? Because if I bring who Anthony is, you may call the police on me. You see what I'm saying? Because you feel like barbecue Becky, like barbecue Becky. You may hit that 911 line, or do I have to come in and pretend like I play Parcheesi and love Shakespeare and things of that nature? So
Not that you don't love Shakespeare.
I mean, Shakespeare cool. He decent. Or she, because Shakespeare may be a woman. I don't know. I know there's some theories out there. But for me, I'm getting to the point the older I get, I'm just like, take me as I, like that meme about the beach body. Like, the beach going to get whatever body I bring to it. Like, that's just where I'm getting to. Like, if I can't make it as Anthony, then I'm just not going to make it.
That's a great point.
Like, that's just the mindset I'm in now. 'Cause my sense of self and my self-love and self-pride at this point in my life is just more important.
It's relatable.
More important than, right.
And that's what people want to connect.
I appreciate that. I really do. Because I've struggled with that.
We all do. We all do.
I grew up in a interracial family since I was 1.5. My white stepdad, who's my dad, right? My mom, black, right? But growing up, hey, are you mixed? Like, is that your dad? Just that uncomfort feeling had me late to life to get comfortable with myself. To Anthony's point, just own it. Be you. And I think you have to be you, but also have a strong support system around you. Because if you go off onto tangents, that support system's going to hone you back in. So I think that's crucial. Here's another question. How do you invest in building deep relationships? You said something earlier just about when you meet someone,
The commonalities.
you find commonalities, right?
Yeah, commonalities can go a long way. It also is first impression a lot of the time. So I'd say, how do you build investing in long-lasting bonds? It's more of experiences, It's not, because people will tell you, how long have you known this person? Or you call them your family, how long have you known them? And it's like 6 months. And people are like, what is that? But in reality, if you think about it, if you were with that person for those 6 months every day, going through hard times, they became your family because they were right next to you, and it was those experiences.
I went through like a boot camp together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I would say,
I guess I'm tackling that issue, I guess from a slightly different perspective in the sense of I don't try to facilitate or nurture deep relationships in professional settings. Like, honestly, personally, I don't think I can afford to, just based upon what's at risk. For me, if you're not a day one, if I didn't grow up with you, if I don't have those personal experiences with you, I cannot. There's always going to be some level of a wall up, and I hate to use that analogy, because I'm not rocking with Trump at all. But so I built a wall in a sense personally to protect myself, because there's so many individuals within a professional setting that at the end of the day, you think they're your friend, you think they're your ally, you think they're your colleague until something happens where they may want your position, they may want your influence, or they may want to save their position or influence. And then it all goes to hell, and you're in the crosshairs. So for me, I don't build deep relationships professionally I can have a professional relationship with somebody that I've already had a deep relationship with.
Right.
Perfect example may be you. You know, I mean, I've known you again since we were young, but in regards to starting deeper relationships, I tend not to go there because there's too much for me to lose, and I just can't afford to trust people in a professional setting like
That's a
that.
good point.
Yeah.
It's keeping that balance.
Right.
Social and professionalism.
Exactly. I mean, you see it often with, I mean, how many times do we hear about or maybe see online or, you know, via social media, someone goes to an office party and
Yes.
gets too wasted, you know, or somebody goes to an office party and they start twerking because Cardi B comes on, you know, this sound like Cardi to the stage, you know, whatever. But
There's
and
a
they,
place.
right, and they get a little bit too comfortable
Right.
because they're thinking they're amongst friends.
Right.
And in the meantime, the friends are talking
They're
about
fired
you.
the
Right.
next
So
day.
you're fired
Two
the next
different
day.
worlds.
Or they're taking pictures and
Right.
videos. And I
Two
teach.
different worlds.
And I mean, there's so much gossip, you know, in my setting, you know, whether it's community activism, everybody talks about everybody, you know, whether it's in my teaching realm or my community organizing realm or my activist realm, political realm, like everybody talks about everybody. So for me, no, you can't get that in.
You have
can't
to be
get
more
that in with me.
protected, though, and
Exactly.
because they're trying to collect that data.
Right. But I think everybody does, though, no matter what.
True. No, that's true.
And you know what?
Everybody's
Like my mom raised me. Trust everyone until they give you a
That's-
reason to trust them. I've learned to distrust
Yeah.
people until they
You have to earn. Yep.
trust.
You have to earn the trust.
You know, and I try and go into every interaction with, "Hey, you're good. I'm good. Let's talk."
Right.
I go into it with that basis. But the second, like, you say you're gonna call at a certain time and you don't, right? Just little things like that you start doing that are inconsistencies with your word, it starts to add up.
It's a
And it
snowball
starts to
effect.
make me question where this relationship is, because relationships are based on truth. You know, and that those little truths of, "Hey, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Well, you're an hour late. It's like, is your word bond? You know what I mean? So I think those are things to really look at as you're understanding the people that you interact with to network with,
Definitely.
for sure. How do you maintain your network? Right? There's how you invest in it, but how do you keep a network? And how do you, like, you build it, it's there.
Follow up. It's follow up. It's just being exactly what you just mentioned, being consistent, but being truthful too. It's following up. Hey, how's it going? How's it been? And just reconnecting. Doesn't have to be every day. Once in a blue moon, and just leave it at that. You don't have to hound somebody and be there all the time. But
And for me, I feel like recognizing that a network is ever evolving.
yes.
You know, I feel like you can never become comfortable and feel like because I've created a network now I can, you know, rest on my laurels and sit back and this network is going to work for me, because there's going to be times where somebody has to leave the network. Maybe you add someone to the network. Maybe you have to advance and add more. You know what I'm saying? So it's ever evolving. So I think that's most important for me, in a sense of just recognizing that the network that I have on a Tuesday may be completely different from the network I have on a Thursday.
Oh, that's
You know, just based upon, you know, different things that happen, different needs, and different wants.
And for you, man, I think you're able to do that because you're so confident at what it is you believe in, what you want to do, and what you're about. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of younger students face that are just trying to get into a new environment, a new career. Like, what does that mean for me, though? Like, I'm still, you know, and I guess I would say to that, own it.
Yeah.
Just continue to own it and continue to build that support system around you, build up mentors around you, people that you can learn to trust, that are showing you their 100 with you now, but keep an eye out for whether that 100 changes to 50.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great point that you bring up as well. And I mean, that gives us something to also think about in the sense of, you know, everybody says never burn bridges. In a sense, you know, you never burn bridges. But for me, I think, and I'm going to quote Russell Westbrook, and I'm not going to say the word, but he said this past year, you know, his greatest strength is not giving an F.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, that's been my greatest, I guess, awakening, in the sense of I'm not in whatever I'm in to make friends. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to please everybody. I'm trying to accomplish goals. I'm trying to accomplish things. So if somebody hates me, you know, they hate me. If a bridge is burned, the bridge is burned. Now, I'm not saying that works for everybody, but I think that's something else individuals do deal with as well when you talk about networking, when you talk about, you know, career advancement, in the sense of most people, it's inherent in human. You want to be liked. You want to have friends. But for me, it's just like,
How do
hey.
you just cut it off?
Yeah.
How can you feel okay saying no to something? And being
Exactly.
comfortable with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deuces. So
Yeah.
that's important.
Love it, man. Love it. Anything you want to add on that? in terms
No,
of
I
just
completely agree with
giving
that.
a hard stop to a relationship, anything.
It happens. It's what it's
It's part of
business.
life.
Yeah.
Hard stuff.
Why is it important to give back?
Why is it important to give back?
I'll give my
Yeah.
kind of holistic view. Obviously, this is all as it relates to networking, but I think it's important to give back because we're a social environment and we work together as a whole to bring together a common goal or to work towards a common goal at the end of the day, and that's to live happily. That may differ depending on what industry you're in, what field you're in, what job you're doing today, but across the board is to be happy, whether it be religiously, whether it be politically. It's to build relationships with people that can coexist. When you give back, you show that you're willing to give without getting anything back. And to me, that's one of the most profound things you can do to leave a legacy, is to give back and know you're not going to get anything in return, and to know, to the point that me and Anthony were talking about earlier in Denora, you may die for that. You may not only not get something back, but you may die for that, right? And that's a martyr. And that's why it's important to me to give back, because I think it shows how much you really care.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's being passionate about something and really going full force. And that's why you started this at the end of the day. You said, that's what I want to do. I want to give peace back. I want to definitely guide the youth. And that is what you're doing right now without any expectations, because really there's no return at this point. I mean, there is
the
in a
return
moral
is
way.
fun. Like I'm fun. I'm hanging
But
out.
you're
with
changing
no friends.
lives.
Intrinsic
But,
rewards.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's
Intrinsic.
the end goal.
And there's not
To
enough people
inspire,
doing that,
but to be
though.
inspired too. Like I want to be like, I'm not looking up here, looking down at people. I'm looking like
You're recycling the
with
energy.
people, and I'm trying to relate with them so that I can learn from their stories and they can learn from our stories.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important. I mean, for me, I think it's based upon how I was raised. My grandfather, my father, my grandmother, so on and so forth. They were big on service. Huge Muhammad Ali fans. One of his greatest quotes, in my estimation, is, service to others is the rent you pay for room here on this earth. So essentially, it's why are we here? What is the purpose of life? Whether you're religious, non-religious, so on and so forth. What is the purpose? Is the purpose just to feed yourself, just to serve yourself and advance as an individual? Or is the purpose to advance a collective, the greater good? So that's just how I operate in a sense. At the end of the day, if I'm personally rich, yeah, cool. It's great. But what type of legacy have I left? What type of systemic change, as we were discussing earlier off air, have I engaged in or promoted? So that's why, I engage in trying to serve others, because I think even as a black male in society, I have privileges. I have a great job. I come from a community like Oak Park that had a wealth of opportunity. I come from a 2-parent home. So a lot of these things separate me from many of my peers, many from the younger generation. So that behooves me, to reach out and to try to provide them with the opportunity that I was just given,
Plug up. Yeah. Awesome, man. So earlier we were talking about you don't got no questions when you go to these networking events. He doesn't have any questions, but he's a smart kid.
He'll figure it out. He feels the vibe.
No,
He'll figure it
but
out.
how do you ask easy questions at a networking event? Like, what are some strategies that we can kind of... By the way, Instagram, thank y'all for tuning in. Your Passion 1ST. I love y'all. Starting this network here. We're going to start hosting some career readiness fairs in the near future. Me and my man is here, Anthony. We're going to talk about that, how we can get that done. But we want to be here for you, right? But we want you to be here for us. We want to be inspired, but we want to inspire. And it's about bringing just people together, right? Of all races, all walks of life, all religions that have faced adversity and overcame it, right? And continue to follow their passion. So that's what it's about. That's why we're here. Again, the age demographic is wide, but we have to look at really the younger age group, right? The ones that are most influential, the ones that don't know yet. They're not educated yet, right? There's people that are 30s, 40s. You know, you read, right?
People
But we're
don't.
still learning. But we are still
Learn
we're
every
still
day.
grinding,
Yeah, exactly.
Learn every day.
Right.
My guy, my homie, Steven Jackson. Shout out to Steven. He said, still learning. Every day we learn something new.
Every
No
day,
question.
every day. And if you're not, you need to think about who you're surrounding yourself with.
No
True.
question.
What network?
That,
right?
yeah, it's
Yes.
a bogus network that
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
dismantle.
Is the sales pitch still a thing?
No.
Like personal
Is it?
sales pitch?
I mean, if you go to a networking event,
Yeah.
like you got like your sales pitch ready to
The
go.
elevator pitch
Let me
does
let
not
me
work.
stop. Let me rewind because we skipped over questions. We're going with questions. Simple questions first. How do we ask simple questions? And then let's jump to that sales pitch thing. But
With
for
the-
you,
We're looking at Dom for this question.
yeah, I just felt it all around.
well, in security right now, what's something you want to know that you don't know right now that you could generalize? Or what's something within security news that you've heard about in the past 2 weeks that you could form a question around?
Great.
Or I'll give you a third one. What's something you're very passionate about that you could just make up a question about to get someone's energy, their vibe, like what they're trying to get out of it, right? That's 3 options right there. So
Right.
pick one
Um,
on the spot.
yeah, I'm just trying to think. I probably the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't think of one right off the
That's
top of my
okay.
head. I'm just like, those are questions I have to go back
Right.
and like write down,
Yeah.
and those are questions that I have. But like as a tip, that like helped.
Cool.
Yeah, I think what that leads me to is, so I'm in a high school setting. I'll be completely honest. Again, this is an I statement. I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think, the American educational system is broken. I don't think we're preparing the majority of our students for success, post-secondarily. They lack the life skills to be successful. So for me, when you think about networking, when you think about, say you're going out to a career fair or you're going out to a job interview or work site, so on and so forth, even before you develop the question, so many students don't even understand the importance of Googling the company, organization, institution, individual that you're meeting with. Come in with some background knowledge. Come in with a detailed understanding of the mission and vision. And that's crazy to think about in the sense that so many of our youth, even adults, don't get that. That before you can even develop a question, you have to have a foundational understanding of either the individual, organization, or institution that you're trying to network with, that you're trying to build with. You want to get hired at Bank of America or, wherever.
You know why people
Know
don't
about
have
Bank of America.
Because they don't know what their passion is. And so they're just asking whatever they got to ask to get the check. When you know what your passion is, you know exactly what questions you want to ask because you know what you're trying to get out of the conversation. You know what values you want. You know what your work-life balance is going to look like. You know what the skills are because you know what you like doing. And you know of those things you learn. Okay, well, I like 8 out of the 10. Oh, culture's good. Okay, I could learn to better myself with the 2 out of the 10 I didn't know.
Right.
Right? And I'm willing to sacrifice that because the 8 things I heard were awesome. But if you don't have that vision, then you have no clue what those 10 things are you want to be asking. So I think it takes, again, following your passion, being true to what you want to be and to yourself. I think that can alleviate
Or lack
some
of,
of the issues.
it's just lack of effort.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. Like some people just don't want to do the research and they're just like, well, let me just swing it. I was one of those people. But I was just like, let me just swing it. But that just doesn't serve purpose. You have to research and know exactly what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Follow your passion.
And I mean, it could be generational in a sense. I think
Do you think so?
we could go there. For me,
Take it there.
there's so much nuance to it. How has technology impacted us in regards to networking, in regards to our ability to communicate? Because everything is so readily available. It's at our fingertips in a sense. I don't have to call you now and talk to you on the phone. I can just simply, write a text or, write an Instagram post or a Twitter message. I think that's impacting our youth and our nation as well in regards to their lack of strength in researching, in networking, because everything is just here.
Instant gratification.
It's just instant gratification. And even our parents. I'm hollering at the parents and challenging parents on a daily basis because parents don't want their children to fail. Like we've eliminated, it sounds silly, but we've eliminated dodgeball in a sense, from school. I love dodgeball.
That was one of my favorite
I
games.
used to
I got bruises in my face with
I used to
that.
get beamed,
I
and I got beamed.
That's smart.
Beamed.
I'll stick to
Bro.
softball.
It taught us about competition.
You
It taught us about failure.
Yeah.
It's taught us about
No, I see
losing.
it, man.
So many of our kids are so afraid to get a no.
Right.
So they don't even try to network.
Well,
They don't
seventh
even
place
try to
trophies
reach
are
out.
okay these days.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
The whole
Exactly.
place trophy.
That mindset and thought process. Parents again. Look at the college issue, the scam.
Yes,
that
that
was just
was-
exposed. How was that true networking? That wasn't. That was somebody buying. Right. That was a payoff. That was somebody buying a position instead of having their child go through the normal process. What's your ACT scores, SAT scores, GPA? You have to have interviews and meetings. No,
It's been happening for years. Everywhere.
I know. I mean, it always
in
happens.
every
but
sector.
Again,
It
I
just
feel
got exposed.
Exactly. But I feel generationally, though, we're extremely soft.
Yeah.
We're extremely soft, and we don't have the ability to possibly get denied,
To fail.
possibly fail, get turned down.
So when you guys say next generation, what does that age group look like?
I'm talking
Not me.
millennials, Generation Z. Is it Generation Z?
Is that what it is?
I'm a
We're
millennial.
millennials.
Did we
yeah,
skip
we're
Y?
millennials.
Yeah,
What
we're
happened to Y?
millennials. Is it
why
Y?
what?
Is Y after?
Why the hell
Okay,
they
no,
still
so it's Generation Y is next. So it's millennials,
right,
Wait,
Generation
Y.
Y. I say
Is
Generation
millennials
Z.
are- we're right in between of
Yeah,
working
we're
hard
millennials, right?
and seeing the progress of technology,
Right.
but we still put that hard work in.
Right.
I would
Well,
say
you know
we're
why
the
that
last,
is, right?
last of the Mohicans. I would say we are.
and just in listening, and thank you for showing me Gary V.
Yes,
Okay,
he's
He's talking about
amazing.
Gary Vee.
I love Gary Vee. We're gonna see him soon.
bro. Everyone in a business right now this successful. Guess what? We haven't had a recession in 10 years. You better be successful because we're gonna have one in 2 years. And if you're not winning right now,
Yeah.
there's something wrong. There's something wrong with your product. There's something wrong with your sales pitch.
True.
There's something wrong if you're not winning right now after the amount of time that we've gone without a recession and how great business is right now. And we have built around that a society of entrepreneurs, a society of
claim.
people that, right,
Claim. I was
Claim.
one of those people.
we're acclaimed entrepreneurs, right?
I'm gonna be honest.
That-
Until I found the depth behind
that
it. You have to make millions.
You know, are you growing? Like you're in your second year, you're calling yourself a successful entrepreneur when most companies don't make money until their third year.
True.
So how are you successful in your second year? You know, and I'm willing to wait that out, but I'm also realistic with what's going on here. This shift that's about to happen when this economy downturn starts, and it's starting. It's starting.
It is dwindling.
It
We're
is.
seeing it. Everyone's
And
seeing it.
it's
How do you
scary,
prepare
but-
for that? I mean, with the networking and all that, like, how do you get yourself in a position where it doesn't affect you? I mean, I'm already preparing myself for that.
Well, you
That's why I told you I had an epiphany this morning.
you be comfortable with yourself,
Yeah.
right? First and foremost, but you have a vision for where you're trying to get, and you differentiate yourself.
All right. I don't think you can't be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid of that
I agree with that.
happening if it happens. I don't know. You all have me thinking about. Has anybody seen that? And I forgot the exact title of it. But the Theranos. You heard about Theranos? It's on HBO. It's a documentary. It's about a young white woman who started a blood testing company. Did anybody hear about this?
No, but this is
In Silicon Valley, and she basically lied her way to the top. Like her company was valued at like $9 billion. But when she was exposed for her lies and her deceit is valued at less than zero, like she's under indictment, so on and so forth. So it's on HBO. Oh man, I can't think of the name of the documentary, but essentially Google Theranos.
Right now.
And it all comes up in a sense again that instant gratification, that inability to truly put in that hard work. She basically lied her way, to the top in a sense. So
Elizabeth Holmes.
Exactly. Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, Theranos.
Inventor.
Yeah, she was an inventor. Just like you said, entrepreneur. She was an inventor.
Everyone's claiming that. Everyone's claiming
Right.
the
But I mean, it's
something.
deep. It's so nuanced. But it's locally and nationally. It's happening across the board.
We're gonna check that out and talk about it in the next.
You got to. It's deep, man. It's crazy.
So here's one that I have been guilty of out of possibly my insecurities shining through. Have you ever hijacked a conversation?
Every day. Doing it right now.
I'll let Anthony lead on this one, and I'll add with this to people who are kind of a little dwindled on what hijacking means. Some people who dislike networking may overcompensate by commandeering the discussion. Don't forget, the most successful networkers are good at making other people feel special. Look people in the eye, repeat their name, listen to what they have to say, and suggest topics that are easy to discuss. Be a conversationalist, not a talker.
I take it back. I'm not a hijacker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question in a sense, and that's an interesting topic. And I think for me, where that takes me is the fact that when you think about networking, when you think about collaborating, bridge building, so on and so forth, unfortunately, I think you need to get to the point of understanding that for every maybe one or two really tangible and winning conversations that you have that could take you to the next level, you're going to have like 10 or 20 that in your mind,
or 30,
in your perspective, are just pointless.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I've been there, and I've been guilty of it in a sense where I hijack conversations because I immediately identify or perceive to identify that, this is not going to benefit me personally, and we have to, I have to reflect because it could possibly benefit this person that's talking to me, but I'm in that mindset often of, okay, how is this benefiting me? If I can't take, my organization to the next level, if I can't take myself as an individual to the next level within this conversation, this is 30 minutes I cannot get back. So yeah, I have been guilty of that in the past. I'm not necessarily proud of it because I think in a sense you have to get to the point where you accept that and embrace it, in the sense of, yeah, I may have 10 or 20 conversations that might not necessarily be personally beneficial, but it's still worth it in a sense to engage because you may improve yourself as a communicator. You may help the individual that's talking to you and sharing with you, and so on and so forth. Then again, who knows who they're going to go and talk to? They could go share out to someone else. Man, I reached out and sat down with Anthony. He just shut me down. He went in a completely different direction.
Travels.
Exactly. So you have to be cognizant of that. Who knows who within this technological age? Everybody's a Facebook friend almost.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great, man. And like that's just the power of communication. Because people, when they find a good product or someone they really value, when someone else comes to them that needs that same problem fixed, they're gonna go to you. They're gonna remember that. So I appreciate that. I think for me, there's when you look at, and it's funny, I was at a men's circle for Europe last Friday. There's probably about 30 or 40 students in there, and then a couple of older people. But one of the probably 20 to 22-year-old students said, do you ever feel like when you're standing next to another black male, there's like a sense of intimidation there? And I was like, kind of like marinating on it, like, yeah, but I feel that with multiple, not just black males, I think it becomes more with black males because we're, by nature, we're ingrained to like put our chests out, right? And like not show any weakness. And so any tone, any kind of movement that comes off can get portrayed as egotistical. And so standing next to that black male that you feel is intruding your space, so to speak, I asked him, I said, well, like, how do you feel about yourself? And like, how do you portray it? He was unable to really answer that. And so I guess I asked you, Anthony, like when you look at trying to collaborate with people, right, and you're trying to understand where the commonalities are, how do you balance letting your differences be okay and letting your similarities come together and letting the similarities be the driving factor?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And again, trying to be extremely transparent. I think for me, again, in spaces primarily, we're going to be the minority. If you're black and brown, you're generally going to be the minority in the majority of your networking spaces that you most likely enter into. And what's interesting, even in like community organizing spaces, oftentimes they're dominated by the individuals with that Superman, syndrome, in a sense. They want to cape up and save someone, but that's another conversation, that we could get into another time. But for me, I think, if I'm in a space with, say, another black male, brown male, black woman, brown woman, so on and so forth, I spend time just essentially trying to learn more about them, in a sense, trying to assess their level of genuineness, their level of transparency. Because, again, I've been in situations where I've been perceived as a threat to someone else and I've perceived other individuals as threats because as minorities, and I'm just speaking for myself, often I think we get into that narrative of there can only be one of us. There can't be two great black male speakers, or there can't be two great black women speakers, or two great brown males or brown women, or they, however you identify yourself. So for me, that's the first thing that I do in regard to networking and collaboration. When I encounter, a black or brown individual, is just trying to assess, because I love understand what is your purpose, what is your goal, because I love to network, I love to collaborate, but unfortunately throughout my life, I've been burned too many times where other individuals come back to me like, guess what this individual said, or look at this email. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, they've used our collaborations and networks to advance themselves, because possibly when they met me, I was higher, then they used that collaboration to get to the same level or above. And now I'm a threat to them. Or, I meet somebody that's higher than me and I don't feel like I operate like that. I want to learn from you. Please teach me. But then they view me as a threat because they're like, oh, this young whippersnapper. This young whippersnapper may come up and take my position if they have a better drive than me, if they know more than me, and I see that again as a teacher, at an administrative level when I run into, principals or superintendents. Oftentimes it's just like, if I see a brother or a sister, I'm just like, hey, let's go, because we're in a white space. Right. So let's collaborate, let's combine, let's build relationships. But they're looking at me like, nah, brother, you built from a different cloth. Yeah. So I'm not gonna teach you my trades. I'm not gonna show you what I've been through because I don't want you taking my position. So that's why that's why I'm thinking right now in regard to, even before I get to any type of collaboration, identifying our differences and similarities is, do you view me as a threat? And should I view you as a threat? How do I understand that component and aspect of it? Because I don't care. I feel like that's what we lack in our society. Yes. Real leadership should be empowering the younger generation or someone below you to be able to empower themselves. Great coaches understand talent and use talent, but too often we get to a point where we suppress talent because we want to maintain our positions forever.
I was going to say Dom's point, it is back to the ego. So how do you overcome that, though? Because I think that's a collective problem. I've experienced that, too. My brown girls, as you mentioned, I always try to elevate them and get them to the position. I want them to have my position so I can elevate to the next position. But it doesn't work out that way. Though my intentions are right, it doesn't work out that way. Right. So do you give up in that aspect, or how do you redirect that?
For me, again, it may be a losing battle. This may not happen in my lifetime, but I think too often, unfortunately, in black and brown communities, we have that individualistic viewpoint when we should be thinking as a collective. Yes. So again, unfortunately, I don't have the blueprint, to how to go there and truly create a systemic shift.
We're working on
into a collective thought. We're working on it. But that's, I think, overall where we need to get to, and understand that as a minority, it should be impossible or should be viewed as detrimental to always think as an individual. Analysis or an example of that would be like the LeBron Jameses of the world. Yes, he's wealthy. So many people look up to him, respect him, and so on and so forth. But how many individuals truly have that level of talent within the NBA to be that wealthy or to be in his position? That's individual accomplishments. Or even, not to get too deep, look at the Obamas. We had our first black president. Yeah, in that moment, it was great in a sense. But now I'm looking at it in a sense, love them, great, wish them well. As individuals, they're succeeding. Now they're like in celebrity status and they're everywhere. But how has that changed anything for the black community as a collective?
It's actually gotten a little worse.
Right,
over
exactly.
The past year and a half, 2 years.
Until we start thinking about ourselves as a collective on a micro level in regards to when you enter into a workspace and you see other brown people, hey, we need to come together, girl, or, whoever it is. And
earn that, as you said,
and work together and support each other and uplift each other, we're not going to get anywhere, because too often, again, it goes back to that individualistic crabs in a barrel mentality, where she's the manager, I need to be the manager, or so there's a lot of work to do.
I don't get that. It doesn't
have to be purposeful.
Yeah, purposeful, man. And that's what it's about. It's finding what that purpose is. Hence the name of the company I'm with, Purpose Workforce Solutions. How do we help people define what their purpose is? And that takes not just staffing, not transactional, right? It takes building relationships, not just with them, but with the client, right? And making a cohesive shift or evolution in that person's life, right? It's not just, oh, here you go, replacing them. So yeah, thank y'all. I really appreciate y'all being here. I mean, the last one on here I have, share your passion. We'll leave this as our last topic, and we'll only spend a couple minutes on this one. But just in summary, what would that look like? What would that look like? Sharing your passion when networking, right, and keeping it simple. How do you create simple passion sharing conversations with someone?
I mean, you're doing it now. This is a prime example of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think doing work and investing in work to truly define your passion. Because in networking settings, oftentimes your time is limited. You don't have forever in a day. So invest in writing. Invest in identifying your goals, writing them down. 10-year plan, 5-year plan, thinking about where my passion should take me, where I want it to take me, and refine it. So when you get into spaces, if someone asks you, what are you interested in, what are your passions, what are your goals, you're not fumbling around. You don't take 10 or 15 minutes to get to the point. You can just, hit them with a 1 or 2 sentence answer, and they're like, oh, this brother or sister, they are
knows what they're talking about.
Cold-blooded. So I think that's what, the point is, just work on it, craft that message, and invest that time in order to truly define what your passion is.
I love it. You guys have anything you want to add? Questions, concerns, comments for the audience who's so graciously tuned in? Thank you guys. We appreciate it. Anything? 2 Career Fests coming up. There is one at Navy Pier on Thursday, March 28th, 3 p.m. It's at the Crystal Gardens. The address is 700 East Grand Avenue. And there is another one in Rolling Meadows. It's called the Chicago Northwest Job Fair. And it's also Thursday, March 28th at 11 a.m. The address 3405 Algonquin Road in Rolling Meadows. Thank y'all for joining us. Principles of Passion is about inspiring, but also wanting to be inspired. We want to bring folks on like Anthony that have stories, and we didn't dig in too much. We'll leave that for Anthony's next trip on the show, the adversity piece, because Anthony has a lot more to share. But we appreciate everything you shared today, and we really want to be able to be in the moment with you.
Thank you for having me on. It's truly been on.
Yeah, so we appreciate that. So I will leave y'all with this. There's a quote that I came across. It's an African proverb, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go with others. And so what I'll try and do every week is do a motivational moment. And with this week, just think about a couple things. Live in the social. Live in wanting to communicate with others, and live in wanting to build deeper relationships with people, because the more that you can do that, the more you make an impact on others. It's not just always about you. It's about others too. Technology. It's there. You could be across the world, across the globe. So there's no excuse right now to not network. You have all the resources at your disposal. Even if you don't have a computer these days, you got a phone. Okay? Put your passion first, and you'll always be putting yourself around people that are in line with your personal goals and aspirations. But you got to put your passion first. Be sure not to confuse an emotional, heightened state or lust with passion. Love. Make sound, rational decisions. Remember, if you don't put your passion first, it's hard to chase your dreams. This is Principles of Passion. We appreciate y'all listening. Holla.